Let's move on to the Green Bay Packers, the team that both of us have going 11-6. Both of us have this team making the playoffs. I have them just going to the wild card round. I think I have them losing the wild card round, obviously not hosting because they're not winning the division. But where do you have this team ending the season? And then let's get into that offensive MVP and defensive MVP.
I have them winning a wild card game on the road and then losing in the divisional round. I think my matchups ended up with them playing Detroit. But if we ever got a Lions-Packers playoff game, I think the world would be lit on fire. Honestly, that would be so much fun. I'm pretty sure if I remember my bracket right, I had them going to Detroit and losing in Detroit. It would just be a fabulous game. Let's just dream on it for a bit. But no, that's where I have them. And honestly, it starts and ends with Jordan Love. I mean, just how good he was. And I know there's a ton of different guys on this offense, but he's the engine. And we saw that the second half of last year. Look, the struggles for him early in the year, they got you a little worried. But he became the hottest quarterback in football down the stretch last year, and everything's built around him. All the weapons, getting Josh Jacobs in there to support him, trying to build this offensive line with Jordan Morgan and guys like that on the inside. It's all centered around Jordan Love. They gave him the huge contract, and as far as they go, he will be the reason for it, right? And I think one thing I found interesting is you look at his average depth of target in those first 8 games, and then you look at it from week 9 onward. Last year, weeks 1 through 8, second highest average depth of target in the league. Okay, and I thought you could see it in his tape when you go. Sometimes, man, he's just taking shots, taking home run swings he doesn't need to be taking. Just run the offense, man. And I think when that started to click, I remember, was it Monday Night Football against the Raiders? I think it was, when there was some balls he was just chucking up, and it was like, I don't know, man. Like these decisions are just not right. Week 9 onward, that average depth of target dropped all the way down to 15th. Still a vertical passer. Definitely can make every throw on the field, especially off platform, on platform, whatever you want. But is the patience, and I think you saw it no more than in that Dallas game in the playoffs, right? In Dallas, the craziest part about that game to me, and even though the score, everybody, oh my God, they went in and whooped Dallas. They did all of their day one stuff on offense. Like those first couple of drives, that's all the stuff the Packers run every single week. It wasn't new. It wasn't magic. It wasn't some crazy change Matt LaFleur made. They ran all of their day one stuff, and he just ran it to perfection. And I think that's where it had to get to. Run the system, take the throws available to you, take the shots when they're available to you, and that adjustment made him one of the best quarterbacks in football down the stretch. Everything about this team is built around Jordan Love. It's why he got the huge contract. This is going to be a fun team to watch because of him.
Yeah, it's that Steelers game that I think was the beginning of it for him. 5 big-time throws in that game on the road against the Steelers. And I agree with you. I echo it completely. I think Jordan Love's got the talent. I think we all thought that he had the talent. Could he work the offense? Can he be efficient? And I think in the first half of the season, he was really figuring it out as a first-time, full-time starter. I love that you mentioned the average depth of target there for him going down as a good thing, right? A lot of people think about average depth of target going down as a bad thing. Not always the case, because when you are making the right decisions, sometimes that is more of what is the defense giving you. And I think the defenses knew that he was going to want to push the ball and be aggressive in the first half of the season. I think that you saw him sort of force some things, because from week 9 on, 90.9 passing grade was one of the highest in the NFL. And so he just felt like he was so much more in command of this offense. You mentioned it. You see the big-time throw to turnover-worthy play rate. That was a lot higher than I think that what people believed that it was going to be, in a good way. I should say the gap between those things, and it certainly began to expand even more during the second half of the season. So Jordan Love, I agree with you. Offensive MVP, a lot of fun things to watch on this team, especially how the wide receivers are shaking out. But I think we'll get to that in a couple of minutes here. What about defensive MVP? Let's flip over to the defensive side of the football. Who do you got here for the Packers?
So at first I wanted the guy that you had, but I didn't want it always to be the same between the two of us.
Yeah, get sniped. Get sniped here, buddy.
Yeah, the guy you
get your notes in first.
You sniped it. You sniped the guy that I've been calling my favorite offseason signing in free agency of any team. But I'm going to go with another one. It's the same theme, and I think the theme for this team now is Okay, Jordan Love, we think is great. We saw a stretch where he was great. It's Jeff Hafley coming in as their new defensive coordinator. And over the last 4 years at Boston College, he ran, now we'll see if it translates to the NFL, he ran as much single high and as much man coverage as any team in the country during his time at Boston College. I think he's going to bring a more aggressive approach than Joe Barry had in Green Bay. But I think a guy that plays a big part in that is Jair Alexander. Look,
sure.
This guy's been considered for years one of the lights out corners in the NFL when he's healthy, obviously. Last year, the 14th best man coverage grade in the league. If you're going to run an aggressive system like this, they have worked all offseason to fix the safety position. They drafted 3 safeties. They brought in the guy that you're about to talk about as a free agent, as a core piece. They didn't do a whole lot at corner, and I think that's because they believe in some of the guys they have, and especially they believe in Jair Alexander. He's one of the best corners in football. He has been for a long time, and I think he's going to have a lot of fun. If they're really going to go to this heavy man coverage, aggressive, blitzing kind of system that Hafley ran at Boston College, we'll see how much of that he brings with him to Green Bay. I'm sure it'll be a good amount. It's going to be a more aggressive defense down there, but Alexander's the key to it all. If they can't cover man-to-man on the outside, at least some of, as much as Hafley wants to, then he's going to have to change things up. It's going to be a lot different. Alexander can be the guy to make this go. He's still a shutdown corner. He's still one of the best corners in the league.
No, I agree with you completely there. Every team in the NFL has to play man coverage at some point, even the ones that like to run zone more, like to predominantly be known more as a zone defense, whether it's, I think that you could, cover 3 quarters, like whatever, like cover different forms of cover 6, like you have to be able, even the teams that love to run that the most, you do have to be able to match up man-to-man at some point in time. You can't only run zone. You also can't only run man. But in order to play that man coverage, you have to have corners who can match up athletically with the wide receivers, basically anywhere they're going to line up, because the NFL is so diverse now. I said football in general, going to college as well. You got these number 1 wide receivers sometimes lining up in the slot. You've got to at least have a corner that can play up against a team's number 1 in man coverage. And then the second piece of that, some people would argue the most important piece is you have to have the safety to be able to do it, to play cover 1 specifically, which Jeff Hafley is going to play a lot more cover 1 this upcoming year. I'm glad that you pointed that out, because that was a big talking point that I had with Xavier McKinney, who is my defensive MVP for this team. They bring him in over from the New York Giants. McKinney played 319 snaps in cover 1 in Wink Martindale's defense last year for the New York Giants, and he earned an 85.4 overall grade, which was the 7th highest among safeties in the league. And there's a reason why I went with overall grade here, not just coverage grade. Because when you are playing cover 1, you still have to be responsible for a lot of different things. And that includes where the ball is, coming downhill, helping in run defense. What you are as a safety in cover 1 is extremely stressful and paramount on what happens for the rest of the defense. So you have to have a specific safety who can play that very crucial cover 1 responsibility, single high responsibility very well. And Xavier McKinney was able to do that last year. It's why I agree with you. It was a great free agent signing from them, and I think it's going to be perfect. What about a breakout player here for this team?
So we're joining the party here, Trevor, because any outlet you look at right now, anybody picking a breakout player for the Packers is picking one of the 9 weapons that we think is gonna. Who do you think is gonna be the best weapon? It's like this game. Right. It's this game of roulette is really what it is. Which one is the best one? Who's and Matt LaFleur, what did he say? The wide receiver 1 conversation makes him sick. He's over it. He doesn't care for it. He's the one guy who doesn't care. He's like, I don't care who's in the wide receiver 1 on your fantasy team. I don't care. I don't rank them. They're all really good. But we're going to join the party. I'm going to do it. I think it's Jaden Reed. I think Jaden Reed in the slot, I think he really emerged in the second half of last year. Second on the team in yards last year and yards per route run, scoring touchdowns. I think he's a matchup problem. I really do in the slot. And I know they've got some vertical weapons outside. If Christian Watson's healthy, if guys like Romeo Doubs we've seen make contested catches, he can get vertical. I think Jaden Reed, though, in the slot, I think really became a weapon that adds just the versatility of this offense, and he's just so good. He's so reliable. He works in space well. He's got that savvy as a route runner on the inside. I think he's one of the better slot receivers in football. So among the weapons roulette, because we have so many guys to pick from, including 2 pretty solid tight ends as well, I'm putting my hat in the Jaden Reed bucket. I'm going there.
No, I understand. He was somebody that I certainly thought about for this discussion, and you're right. Matt LaFleur does not give a damn about your fantasy team when it comes to these wide receivers, because you look at, I've explained this on the show before, but for anybody who might be listening for the first time, we have a statistic in our PFF data called threat, which is essentially wide receiver usage. How often are you getting targeted per route that you run? So how emphasized are you in the offense when you're out there running routes? The best wide receivers in the NFL, like the true wide receiver ones that are big time emphasis players, they're right around 30%. But, anything above 20 is, you're obviously a mainstay in the offense. They're trying to get you the football. Christian Watson, 19.3%. Dontavian Wicks, 20.8%. Jaden Reed, 24.1%. So he had the highest. Romeo Dobbs, 18.9%. So they're all right there. They're all like right there in that little chunk. You mentioned Jaden Reed getting the most looks there, but I'm going to go with Dontavian Wicks as my guy who I think is going to be the breakout player. And I think that it goes towards what Jordan Love is going to be building upon from last year to this year. You mentioned the average depth of target went down a little bit last year because he was becoming more efficient. I think that gets a little bit of a tick up this year because he's going to build off of the efficiency he had last year, but then also remain and maybe get even more fearless, more comfortable, more confident this year. And I think that Wicks is the guy that he's going to connect with quite a bit. Wicks was second on the team last year in explosive plays behind Jaden Reed, despite seeing 37 less targets than him. Reed was first and he only had one less explosive play. So if they start to push the ball a little bit further this season than they did in the second half of last year, I think Wicks is going to be the guy that they look for quite often. So I think that he is going to be in for a major breakout season because I think this Packers offense has the chance to really be humming all season long. But what about best rookie? Who you guys best rookie here?
Some really good candidates here because it looks like Jordan Morgan's going to start. They drafted 1 million safeties in the draft in the late rounds, but give me Edgerrin Cooper, the linebacker. I think this was a really good move, and I don't know if he's going to start early on, but I think he's going to play. He's certainly going to be in on special teams. I think he's going to play at some point very, very soon. You've got 2 linebackers in front of him in Quay Walker and Isaiah McDuffie, who I believe one graded a 57 last year and one a 58. And the theme with this Packers defense is going to be coverage over the middle of the field, and they spent their offseason trying to fix that. You got McKinney drafting safeties, drafting linebackers, and that's really where they struggled last year. They didn't struggle too much on the outside. It's over the middle, and Edgerrin Cooper was the highest graded linebacker in college football last season. Got a little bit of everything to him. Run D's, got really good instincts, really good blitzer. It might sound like a weird skill, but to me, he was the best quarterback. He was the best spy in the country. I think it was a really big asset when they were playing. You watch A&M last year, and this guy's really athletic. You watch them play teams like Alabama with Jalen Milroe, LSU with Jaden Daniels, some other mobile quarterbacks that were in the SEC that they played. Jordan Travis with Florida State that they that was LSU. I'm getting it mixed. A&M, though, playing their athletic quarterbacks as opponents. Cooper was the spy. He's really athletic. I think that's going to be a big asset for them. And if he can just get a little bit better in coverage, and he was good last year in coverage, we'll see. Maybe that's the X factor here, where maybe he's a blitzer that comes in early as that third linebacker, and he's figuring it out in coverage as we go. But I think there's a lot of different ways they could use Edgerrin Cooper, and he's going to play very, very soon.
Yeah, I think that his coverage grade, and this, I don't think this is a grade fault in any way, shape, or form, was a little bit skewed. And I was kind of telling people this throughout the draft process because, like, a high coverage grade was, okay, he was in a coverage rep, but clear, like, he was just triggering downhill. Like, it was running backs in the flat. It was going up to get running quarterbacks or pressuring quarterbacks if they left the pocket. Stuff with like shallow routes with tight ends or wide receivers. Like mesh routes that were kind of coming over the middle, only a couple of yards past the line of scrimmage, and he was able to cut those guys off. So a lot of his high coverage plays were still more downhill plays. But I think he has the athleticism to have a big coverage range, so we'll see how much he could do that this year. I'm looking forward to see Javon Bullard, just one of my favorite players in this past year's class. He was super versatile with how he lined up in Georgia. Early on in his time, it was more as a slot receiver, or sorry, a slot corner. This past year, he was more of that true strong safety, split safety type of a player, and we're already seeing Green Bay get really versatile with him. 14 snaps in the slot this preseason, 8 at free safety, 2 on the box, 2 even on the line of scrimmage as a blitzer as well. So they're not afraid to get this guy involved, and he started very early on his time with Georgia, and you don't get to start as an underclassman at Georgia unless you just love football. just absolutely love the game of football. You got the P's and Q's down. You're disciplined. You're exactly where you need to be, especially for a position that was as versatile as the one that they put Bullard in when he was just a true sophomore. So I got a lot of faith in Javon Bullard, him and Xavier McKinney, as well as some of the other secondaries that they have in that group. I'm very, very excited about what those guys could be. So